Alright, we're back with some more post-commentary action. What do we got going on this time? Pretty mixed starting hand, but the starting hand itself isn't really the star of this show. We have Grey Butcherbird and Main Duck in the tray. We're going first, and I immediately have my eye on those two birds. Wetland Scientist is going to be my bonus card here. Hopefully we'll be able to score some points on that. I consider the Magpie Lark for a moment, being able to play that 5-point bird for 1 wheat off the Main Duck, but I don't think I'm going to be able to utilize its power at the end of the game. So I decided to just maximize my food, keep the red start for egg support, and we're going to draw the Main Duck and the Butcherbird on our first turn. Alright, my opponent kept 3 birds themselves. I think for a moment about just drawing the Main Duck, but I decide that I want to guarantee the Butcherbird. It's one of my favorite cards out of Oceania, and I just want to make sure that I have access to that card. I don't know if my opponent would grab it, but it's kind of a good target. We do flip up the common Nightingale in the tray, and I hope my opponent leaves that behind, and they do. They play a Nuthatch into their forest, so now I'm going to play the Main Duck and hope the Nightingale is still around. I suspect that it will be. We'll draw that out of the tray and tuck a card under the Main Duck and get a wheat. My opponent gains food. Taking a look at their board, they have 2 nectar here. We're just going to grab our Nightingale. Oriole is interesting, kind of expensive. I'm going to let it go though here. My food issues should be solved with the Nightingale and the Main Duck. And it's kind of nice to get the Main Duck, the Nightingale, and the Butcherbird because they're all some of my favorite cards. There's the red-legged partridge for my opponent, so they're going to be spamming a ton of eggs. Going to use some wheat from the Main Duck to lay 2 eggs here in order to get the Nightingale down. Opponent gains more food. We just throw down this Nightingale. Going to use the wheat because we're going to have a surplus of wheat from the Main Duck. My opponent drops a big red knot in their wetlands. Bell's Vireo is a good draw. Shrike Thrust is prime tucking fodder. Some really nice artwork there on the Shrike Thrush. I read its power and think about it for a moment and decide, nope, we're just going to keep leveraging this wetlands. I'm going to gain a rat off the Nightingale for our Butcherbird play. And you just need to tuck 1 card on the Main Duck to get the wheat. Should be able to get this Bell's Vireo down at some point. I was thinking about tucking it for a moment, but with this Nightingale, we should have plenty of food at our disposal. Now here comes the Nightingale, or the Butcherbird rather. Here's my opponent's board. So they got some small nests there to pair with the partridge, so that's good for us, bad for them. Opponent gains food again here. It's going to draw off the top of the deck. Green Pygmy Goose. I don't like the idea of giving cards to my opponent here. I do consider it for a moment. It is a wetland only bird for our bonus card. Malifowl is interesting, but I don't think we're going to have the ground nests to take full advantage of it. And the black red start will kind of fill our egg support role here. Malifowl only gets eggs at the end of the game, so debating on the food here from the Nightingale, we take a worm and we're going to tuck the Malifowl and I think the Pygmy Goose as well. Yes. So we've already got a very solid little wetlands engine here. Hopefully our Butcherbird hits a bunch of times, racks up a ton of points. And we lose the round goal. And the round 2 tray serves up a European Goldfinch for my opponent. So that's pretty annoying to see that type of counterplay pop up for your opponent. But that's Wingspan. They scoop up the Goldfinch. And reveal Chihuahuan Raven, so we can't let them have that as well with that partridge. So we're going to deny that. House Sparrow shows up. That's interesting to pair with Main Duck. Butcherbird hits again. Thinking hard about the House Sparrow and seeing that potential there. Going to pick up the cherry for our black-red start. And I'm going to tuck the Raven here. Now, in retrospect, I should have considered playing this more, I think. The Raven would be a great source of nectar to help me build out my wetlands more, or any other bird bombs that come along. But I just am really going to focus on this wetlands. Our food should be okay between the Nightingale and the Main Duck. There's an American Red start from my opponent. Northern Shoveler, it's a good bomb. Collared Dove gets flipped by the Butcherbird, doesn't get activated though. And gonna grab a cherry here off the Nightingale, and we're gonna let the Flycatcher go here. Considering the Shoveler, it's a good 7-point bird. Don't think I'll be handing out cards with its power, but it does line up with our bonus card, and that's going to be important because we're really, with this type of wetland engine, we're kind of ignoring the round goals and our bonus cards and nectar, quite frankly. So we need to be able to make up those points in other ways, primarily through mass tucking effects. But the Shoveler will allow us to score some points here off our bonus card. Plenty of food in my reserve. Thinking about what my next option is. I think I'm going to get the Red Start down here to cover that first column in the grasslands. And then we can lay 2 eggs and play our next bird. There's a European Goldfinch for my opponent. I'm going to lay some eggs here to set up our next bird play. My opponent draws cards off the top. I'm going to draw cards as well with 3 activations left in the round here. Blue Heron and Yellow-Headed Blackbird is just the type of card we're looking for. Get another success on the Butcherbird. Grabbing a worm here. And I got a decision to make. I definitely want to play the Yellow-Headed Blackbird. But what am I going to do with this Blue Heron? I could go Heron into Blackbird, or I could play the Shoveler. And I decide to let the Heron go here. Well, this is really a nice little image here with these birds in the wetlands here with this cool background from the Woodland Wonders pack. Opponent draws cards again. Alexa goes off in the background.
Sorry, I don't know that.
Me either. So anyways, here comes the Yellow-Headed Blackbird. Now looking back on this, I kind of think to myself, I should have played the Shoveler here, because I'm going to have to skip the Blackbird's power, and I think that's what I'm considering here. It's what's taking so long. I'm going to have to skip the blackbird in order to get the 4 eggs off the red start at the end of the round. Ultimately, I don't think it really matters, so I just go with the blackbird, the worm and its food cost applying to the round goal. The shoveler does as well, so it's kind of a wash there. Alright, Baird Sparrow from my opponent, so they're definitely setting up a egg spam engine here. Drawing some more off the top. Gonna have to skip the blackbird here, losing 2 points to gain 4 points off the red start. Butcherbird hits again. Figuring out what I need for food here for all my birds. I think I roll with a worm here, yep. And we're going to let the hawk go, and the golden eye, and the screech owl. Now actually, I should have probably played the golden eye instead of the shoveler, which I eventually end up getting down, because it is a wetland bird. And it would allow me to get more eggs off my opponent's emerging grassland engine. But my opponent wins this round goal here. But the goldeneye can only lay eggs on cavity nests, so that would be my main duck, which would interfere with the red start. The red start does have a star nest, so I could probably make that work. I didn't really think about that goldeneye too much. That was probably a misplay, tucking that. So here I'm considering my options. Here comes the shoveler. Burning the eggs off our wetland birds. And we've got our wetlands complete here. Very solid point scoring engine. Got some food gaining options with the nightingale. And if I really want to get aggressive with cards, the shoveler can back us up on that. Although it does give out cards to our opponent as well, which is something I really don't like doing. I am kind of stingy when it comes to sharing, except with like on this nightingale, because we need those resources in order to advance our game state. So there, my opponent plays the Sparrowhawk. Interesting. Looking at this Griffin Vulture for a second, trying to look at my opponent's board here, how many predators are in play, just the Sparrowhawk. So we don't really need the Vulture here. Cowbird is nice. I definitely want to consider throwing that in my grasslands. Whipbird, don't need it. I don't know what I'm thinking so hard about here. Checking out my opponent's board. And a Kingbird shows up. Gonna skip the card. Let that Kingbird go. Butcherbird hits again. And I should probably consider taking a Nectar here, but I don't do that. I'm very scared of handing out Nectar to my opponent. It's not something I really consider in the moment. I'm going to take the Wheat. And what taking a Nectar here would do is allow me to get on the board for those second place points for either the forest or the grasslands. So even though I'm handing a Nectar to my opponent, that own Nectar that I'm giving myself was going to give me 2 points. And it'll help me play birds into the grasslands. Looking at that Bell's Vireo with its double worm cost, I have no worms here. My opponent lays eggs. So that goldeneye would have got an egg here on the red start. Interesting to note. Going to throw down the Cowbird to take advantage of any more egg-laying actions my opponent takes. Looks like I'm having some second thoughts here. Am I just going to run my engine? I want to get that Cowbird down, though, ahead of any other lay egg actions my opponent does. And the Cowbird can lay eggs on cup nest birds, which is what the round goal is. Could lay the egg on the red start. Yeah, and I do decide to go with the cowbird here. Also want to clear eggs off my wetland birds for the red start. Scoring 3 points off our wetland scientist. My opponent's got an interesting egg spam board here. European goldfinch is an annoying counterplay to my wetland engine. But we have a cowbird to act as counterplay to their grassland engine. Opponent draws cards. Got 4 tucks on the black naughty there. Drawing some more cards. A lot of bombs there. Skipping the card as usual with the shoveler. Can't play the swan, so we'll get rid of that. And the butcherbird hits again. Looking at my food options here, and again, I really should grab a nectar here. Just to have that one nectar to get down into the grasslands. Thinking about the scrub fowl, not going to be able to take good use or make good use of that, I don't think. 1 point bird. I have 2 ground nests at the moment. Opponent plays cedar waxwing into their grasslands. Nice little engine emerging there. And I need to play birds here. I gotta burn off 3 eggs. And I can get the house sparrow and the bell's vireo down into my grasslands to burn off the 3 eggs in order to get the maximum 5 off the red start. And this is where the nectar really would have helped me. So I'm going to play the house sparrow first, burning off 1 egg. And now this leaves me with a worm and 2 wheat to play my bell's vireo. If I had that nectar, I could play the bell's vireo, get on the board for the grassland nectar points, and then I would have a wheat left over to tuck on the house sparrow. So I miss out on 3 points here at the end of the round 3. Opponent draws cards, loading up their hand for their waxwing. So they've got a... Oh, here comes the bell's vireo. Overpaying to get it down, clearing the eggs off. And I was going to say my opponent has a 5-point engine, but it's actually more than that. And going to roll with ecologist over backyard birder here. Ecologist should be an easy couple points here. We should be able to find a decent forest bird to throw down to pick up an extra 2 points there. My opponent has a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, possibly 9-point engine, so that's actually pretty scary as long as their nests are open for the partridge. And we win that round goal thanks to the red start laying eggs on our 3 wetland cup nest birds. Nothing devastating in the tray for my opponent to grab here at the start of round 4. I've definitely got my eyes on that nutcracker though for my forest bird. Nice 5-point bird for 1 wheat, which is easy for us to get because of the main duck. And that's actually going to be a 7-point play thanks to ecologist. So we're drawing cards here. Nothing that great. Pick up the nutcracker. Plenty of tucking fodder here. Butcherbird misses. We've had some good success on that so far, though. And here I do recall, or I do think about taking nectar for the forest play, and it was in this moment in the game that I realized that I should have taken nectar for my grasslands plays as well. So there's nectar for the nutcracker. Go ahead and tuck these birds. It's kind of a scary prospect thinking about my opponent having those 15 nectar points over me. So you definitely want to try to at least get second place, if at all possible, on all habitats. Because that 15 unanswered points is game deciding most of the time. There's a bomb from my opponent in the wetlands. There we pick up the mini Benelli, northern goshawk, and a lot of tucking fodder, which honestly isn't that bad of a deal here. Considering my food for the nightingale, considering the little owl and the New Holland honeyeater for a moment, thinking about another way to get a nectar into my grasslands, but I kind of come to the realization here with 3 turns left in the game that that ship has sailed. I've missed that opportunity. So we are going to skip the nightingale here. That food could be tucked on the house sparrow, but I don't think I thought of that in this moment. I didn't want to give my opponent more fuel for their end game. There we see Galah from my opponent. Nutcracker comes down, spending the nectar. So that was a 9-point play, thanks to our bonus card. And my opponent is going to hand us wheat with their Galah. So I don't know if they're considering my house sparrow, but that's going to be a great little counterplay. So for every 2 points they score in the Galah, hopefully there's wheat that we can use to score on our sparrow. And here we pick up a free egg from our cowbird, finally. There's no way I'm going to clear all the eggs out in my wetlands, so I decided to throw the egg down there. And plenty of wheat to grab from the Galah. And here comes the goshawk. Definitely want to keep an eye on the wrong goal though, cards in hand. And playing the goshawk is going to allow us to open up the nest of the blackbird. So with this round 4 goal, we're going to have to hold a card back in order to get those points. My opponent has 1 card in hand here. Another egg. Cowbird coming through. And the Galah gives us another wheat for our sparrow. Very strong grassland engine for my opponent, so I'm starting to sweat a little bit here. And my opponent has 0 cards in hand, so I think they forgot about the wrong goal here. It's going to work to our advantage. So now we only have to hold 1 card back to win the 7 points on the wrong goal. One more hit on the Butcherbird. Got it. Monstrous. And we're going to gain the wheat off the nightingale. My opponent can't utilize it themselves, they're out of turns. So now we got a nice 5 wheat, the maximum we can tuck on our sparrow. Look at my opponent's board there. Sparrow's going to tuck 5 wheat. Nice 5 points there at the end. Going to pick up 3 eggs on the last turn. from the red start. I think the red start laid 12 eggs this game. 7 unanswered points there for the wrong goal. We need that big time. Tie in the forest nectar. My opponent wins 5-0 on the grassland nectar. That hurts. And my opponent wins 5-2 on the wetlands nectar. Alright, well, if you like that Maine duck wetland action, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. And I got a feeling this is going to be close as I'm watching this score tick up. And it's making me really uncomfortable how my opponent has this slight edge here. The eggs look scary. And I really need these tucks to bring it home for me. We creep ahead, but my opponent has those nectar points. 129 to 124, so it was a very close game. I did miss out on those 3 points. Due to the grassland nectar, the play on my Bell's video. Good game to my opponent, if I didn't say that. They had wildlife gardener and mechanical engineer. That 0-point wildlife gardener is probably the deciding factor on this game. And here's a nice look at my board. 3-point wetland scientist, 4-point ecologist, so the goshawk was a great play as well. Alright, thanks for watching, everybody.